I remember starting at the company with so much hope and excitement. The job was everything I'd wanted, challenging yet rewarding. My team was friendly, and my boss, Mr. Smith, seemed like a stern but fair leader. However, that perception didn't last long. It started with small comments about my appearance, which I brushed off as Mr. Smith trying to be friendly. But soon, these comments became more frequent and more personal. I started feeling uncomfortable, but convinced myself I was overreacting. After all, Mr. Smith was respected by everyone, and I was the new girl. Who would believe me if I said he was acting inappropriately? Then came the day everything changed. Mr. Smith asked me to stay late to discuss a project. Once everyone had left, he revealed his true intentions. It wasn't the project he wanted to talk about. He wanted me. I tried to reject his advances politely, but Mr. Smith wasn't having it. He said he knew I was ambitious and that if I wanted to keep my job or have any hope of advancing, I would comply with his desires. I felt trapped, with no way out. My dream job had turned into a nightmare. That night, I couldn't sleep. I felt dirty, ashamed, and above all, angry. Angry at Mr. Smith for putting me in this position and angry at myself for feeling powerless. Then it hit me. I wasn't powerless. I had my phone, a device capable of recording audio and video. If Mr. Smith wanted to play dirty, I was going to fight back with everything I had. So I started recording everything, every sleazy comment, every inappropriate touch, every single piece of evidence that could prove what a monster Mr. Smith really was. It was risky, and if I got caught, it would probably mean the end of my career at this company. But I couldn't let him get away with this. Not just for my sake, but for anyone else he might try to prey on in the future. This was the beginning of my secret life. By day, I was the diligent worker, doing my job and pretending everything was normal. By night, I was a spy in my own life, collecting evidence against the man who thought he could control me. The weeks that followed were a blur of tension and fear, punctuated by moments of sheer determination. I became adept at hiding my phone in strategic places, always on record mode during our meetings. Mr. Smith, oblivious to my secret resistance, grew bolder in his advances, providing me with the damning evidence I desperately needed. One evening, as we were alone in the office working on a so-called urgent project, Mr. Smith made his move, and I was ready. "Come on, we've been working too hard. Relax a little," Mr. Smith suggested, his tone a mix of command and false camaraderie as he poured 2 glasses of wine. "I really should focus on these reports, Mr. Smith. There's a lot to cover, and I want to ensure everything is perfect," I countered, trying to maintain a professional distance while subtly positioning my phone under a pile of documents on the table. "Nonsense, you deserve a break. Plus, a good glass of wine could loosen you up," he insisted, pushing a glass towards me with a smirk. "I prefer to stay sharp, especially with so much on my plate." "Thank you, though," I replied firmly, my heart pounding as I realized this was another moment to capture. His smirk faded, replaced by a flash of irritation. "You know, you really should be more accommodating. I've been very supportive of your career, haven't I?" His tone sent a chill down my spine, but I knew this was important. "Yes, you have, and I'm grateful. But I believe my work should speak for itself. I'm committed to succeeding based on my merit." His frustration was palpable. "Merit, huh? Don't be naive. Everyone needs a bit of assistance now and then." I nodded, pretending to consider his words while my heart raced, knowing every syllable was being recorded. The weeks wore on, and the emotional toll began to manifest. I found myself becoming more withdrawn, my smiles more forced. That's when Jamie noticed. She was a colleague of mine, always vibrant and full of life, making our mundane office seem a bit brighter. "Hey, you've been kinda out of it lately. Everything okay?" Jamie asked one day as we shared a lunch table, her concern genuine. I hesitated, wrestling with the fear of exposing my secret and the desperate need for an ally. "Yeah, just tired, I guess. You know, work and all," I offered weakly, hoping she'd buy the half-hearted excuse. Jamie wasn't convinced. Come on, I've seen you tackle projects like a pro without breaking a sweat. This is something else. You can talk to me, you know? The sincerity in her eyes was my breaking point. Jamie, I. It's complicated. Really complicated, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. Her hand reached across the table, covering mine. Complicated doesn't scare me. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. And so, I told her. Not everything at first, but enough to share the burden. Jamie's reaction was a mix of anger and determination. We have to do something about this. He can't just get away with it. Her words echoed my thoughts, and with Jamie by my side, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The recordings continued, now with Jamie's help in ensuring we covered all our bases. She became my confidant, my ally, and my strength during those dark days. As I gathered more evidence, I realized that this was bigger than just my personal vendetta. This was about justice, about ensuring no one else would have to endure Mr. Smith's harassment. With each recording, I wasn't just documenting my ordeal. I was laying the groundwork for my liberation, and hopefully, that of others trapped in similar nightmares. The weeks turned into months, and with Jamie's unwavering support, I amassed enough evidence to bury Mr. Smith. Yet the weight of our secret was crushing. We needed a plan, a way to use what I had collected to not just escape this nightmare, but to end it for good. One evening, Jamie and I sat huddled over my laptop, the glow of the screen casting shadows across our determined faces. We were reviewing the recordings, piecing together a timeline of Mr. Smith's misconduct. This is it, you know. This could really take him down, Jamie whispered, a mix of excitement and apprehension in her voice. I know, I'm scared, Jamie. What if this backfires? What if no one believes us? My voice trembled with the weight of what we were about to do. Jamie took my hand, squeezing it reassuringly. We have the truth on our side, and I'm right here with you every step of the way. We'll go to HR, present everything. They can't ignore this. And so, we crafted our plan. First, we would approach HR confidentially, presenting the evidence and demanding an investigation. If that didn't work, we were prepared to go public, though the thought terrified me. The day of the confrontation arrived with a suffocating tension. I could barely breathe as we walked towards the HR office, a folder of evidence clutched in my shaking hands. The HR manager, Mrs. Parker, greeted us with a polite smile, unaware of the storm about to hit. "How can I help you today?" she asked, gesturing for us to sit. Taking a deep breath, I began. "Mrs. Parker, we're here because we have evidence of serious misconduct by Mr. Smith. I've been subjected to sexual harassment and blackmail." Mrs. Parker's polite smile faded, replaced by a look of grave concern. "I see. Do you have proof of these allegations?" I nodded, handing over the folder. "Yes, everything is documented here. Audio recordings, dates, times, everything." The meeting lasted for what felt like an eternity. Mrs. Parker listened intently, her expression growing increasingly grim as she reviewed the evidence. "This is very serious," she finally said. "We will need to conduct a formal investigation. In the meantime, Mr. Smith will be put on administrative leave." Leaving the HR office, I felt a mixture of relief and dread. We had done it. We had taken the first step towards justice. But the real battle was just beginning. In the days that followed, the atmosphere at the office shifted. Rumors swirled and whispers followed me like shadows. Some colleagues looked at me with pity, others with suspicion. It was isolating, but Jamie remained by my side, a beacon of support amidst the storm. Then the unexpected happened. More people came forward with their own stories of harassment by Mr. Smith. It wasn't just me. He had been preying on vulnerable employees for years. The investigation concluded with Mr. Smith's termination. But for me, it wasn't just about his dismissal. It was about taking back control, about standing up not just for myself, but for everyone who had suffered in silence. The aftermath of Mr. Smith's departure felt surreal. The office buzzed with a mixture of shock, relief, and in some corners, skepticism. While the investigation was confidential, enough rumors had circulated to piece together a story. However, not everyone was ready to see me as anything but a troublemaker. One morning, as I brewed coffee in the break room, I overheard whispers that cut through the hum of the machine. Do you really think she was the only one? I mean, Mr. Smith was a bit of a flirt, but this seems extreme, one voice said, tinged with doubt. Yeah, but you heard about the recordings, right? She had actual proof, another countered, their tone a mix of disbelief and respect. I gripped my coffee cup tighter, the heat from the ceramic barely registering. It was clear that my fight for justice had also painted a target on my back. But amidst the whispers, a new narrative began to emerge, one where courage and truth had triumphed over power and intimidation. Jamie approached, her usual bright smile somewhat dimmed by the weight of recent events. Ignore the chatter, she advised, sensing my discomfort. You did something incredible. Remember that. Her words were a balm, reminding me why I had embarked on this path in the first place. But it wasn't just Jamie's support that buoyed me. It was the quiet thanks from others who had suffered in silence, the knowing nods of respect from colleagues who had witnessed my struggle. As the company scrambled to fill the leadership vacuum left by Mr. Smith, I found myself thrust into an unexpected role. Senior management, eager to restore faith in the leadership and make a strong statement against harassment, offered me a position leading my team. Stepping into this role was daunting. I was acutely aware of the eyes on me, watching to see if I was leadership material or merely the protagonist of a scandal. But I was determined to lead by example, to show that integrity and compassion could drive success, just as effectively as authority and fear. In my first team meeting as the new lead, I addressed the elephant in the room head-on. I know many of you may have mixed feelings about my new role, I began, my voice steady despite the fluttering in my stomach. I want to be clear. I'm here to work with you, not above you. We have an opportunity to redefine what success looks like in our team, to build an environment where everyone feels respected and valued. The room was silent, but I sensed a shift, a cautious optimism among my team members. Over time, we began to rebuild. I implemented open forums for feedback, advocated for mental health days, and worked tirelessly to foster a culture of transparency and support. The transformation wasn't overnight, and there were setbacks, times when the old guard resisted change or when my leadership was questioned. Yet with every challenge, I grew more resilient, more convinced of the value of leading with empathy and integrity. The story of how I went from being blackmailed into an affair to leading my team might seem like a tale of vindication, but to me, it was a journey of self-discovery. I had found strength I never knew I had, a voice that refused to be silenced, and a determination to effect change. The months following my promotion were a whirlwind of change. Under my leadership, our team flourished, setting new performance benchmarks and cultivating an atmosphere where innovation and collaboration thrived. The cultural shift within our department became a beacon of positive change throughout the company, drawing attention from all levels of management. But with great visibility came new challenges. My story, once confined to hushed whispers and speculative rumors, had now catapulted me into an unforeseen spotlight. I was invited to speak at company-wide forums about leadership and workplace culture. My narrative of transformation and resilience resonated, inspiring others to share their experiences and seek change. It was during one of these forums, as I shared my journey from the shadows of coercion to the forefront of leadership, that the unexpected happened. After my talk, a woman approached me, her expression a mix of nervousness and determination. Your story, it's incredible, and it's given me the courage to come forward, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I smiled, ready to offer words of support, but she continued, about Jamie. I froze. What about Jamie? The woman hesitated, then revealed a truth that would upend everything I thought I knew. Jamie, my confidant and ally, had been more involved than I ever suspected. She had known about Mr. Smith's behaviors long before I did, and had even discouraged others from coming forward, fearing the repercussions on her own career. The revelation shattered me. Jamie, who had stood by me, who had seemed to fight alongside me, had her own agenda. She had seen my battle with Mr. Smith as an opportunity to advance her position, ensuring she was close to the newfound power and influence I wielded. I was confronted with a paradox. Jamie's support had been instrumental in my survival and eventual triumph, yet her motives were far from pure. This betrayal cast a long shadow, forcing me to reevaluate not just our friendship, but the very foundation of trust I had built my new leadership upon. In the days that followed, I grappled with a mix of emotions: anger, betrayal, but also a deep sense of introspection. Jamie's actions were indefensible, yet they also highlighted the complex web of motivations and fears that drive us all. It was a reminder that in the fight for justice and integrity, the lines between ally and opportunist can sometimes blur. Confronting Jamie was one of the hardest things I had ever done. She admitted to her actions, offering explanations, but no real justification. In the end, I realized that forgiveness was not about absolving her, but about freeing myself from the weight of betrayal. This twist in my journey taught me a valuable lesson. Leadership is not just about guiding others, it's about constant self-evolution, and the recognition that the path to integrity is fraught with challenges, both external and internal. As I continue to lead, I do so with a renewed sense of vigilance, not just towards the actions of others, but towards the motivations behind them. The journey from being blackmailed into an affair to leading with conviction had been arduous and, at times, heartbreakingly complicated. Yet it was a journey that forged a leader, resilient, not just in the face of adversity, but in the complex dance of human relationships. And so, my story, which began with a tale of victimhood and retribution, ends with a lesson in humility and the continuous pursuit of growth. In the shadows of betrayal, I discovered the light of self-awareness, a beacon that will guide my leadership and my life forward. Thank you for listening to my story. It means a lot.